Hello, everybody. This is Megan,
And this is Alana.
and welcome to Tea Time Crimes. Hello, what's up? How you doing?
Hello, hello, hello.
Okay. How have you been? I feel like it's been a week. How about you?
Yeah, absolutely.
You feel the same?
Absolutely.
Do you know when you have things happen and then all these little inconveniences also seem to happen at the exact same time, and then they just pile up and pile up and pile up and pile up and pile up?
Exactly.
And if they were isolated incidences, it wouldn't be a big deal, but
100%.
okay, that's how I feel this week.
Yeah,
Well,
I'm with
this
you.
month maybe.
It's a lot
Yeah,
this
we've had a
year.
lot of stuff happen, and then the dogs escaped again, just as an example
Oh,
of an
yeah.
inconvenience. They're fine, nobody freak, but Harlow is a runner. We know that going in. That was part of his shelter profile. That's how he got to the shelter, and we've been working really hard on his recall, and also me being able to grab his collar because he'll dodge your hold if you try to
Oh,
reach for it. He thinks that's very fun.
you got to do a football tackle.
So we've been working really hard for him to let me grab it. And we had our yearly exam. Nope, that's not it. We don't have yearly exam. Brad and I both fail. Our yearly furnace checkup, so they had to go to the backyard, and then the guy left and he shut the gate, and Brad went and looked and the gate was shut. So Brad let the dogs out back, but the gate was not locked. And so Harlow jumped up. He likes to jump up on all paws to get closer to squirrels. And it popped the gate. And then Brad's sitting at his office and he sees two dum-dums ripping up our street. It's a dead-end cul-de-sac, thank goodness. Just as fast as they can, like joy on their faces, super pumped. And so he screams, we run out there. I'm barefoot. I was in a meeting. I just hung up, ran out there. And Harlow loves this. Harlow loves this more than anything. He thinks this is so fun. And Banksy had never done it before. And so Banksy was he was barking at everything. He was definitely scared. So I screamed their names in the middle of the road. It's like, I was like, Stella. And they come zooming at me. Banksy is running 170 miles an hour straight for my face. I don't know if he's excited to see me or if he's going to plow me over and make a break for it. But he comes right to me, lets me grab his collar, and then Harlow follows him and also leans in and lets me grab his collar. So
that's great. They love their mommy.
So the training might be working. I mean, they were out for all of 30 seconds.
It is working. If your training wasn't working, they'd be out.
Gosh, it's just so frustrating.
That's so scary, though.
I know.
I mean, your heart is just in your... I remember when Noke was a puppy, and her harness would break. Chris would meet me at the subway when I would get off in Koreatown, and one time we were walking, and that's a really busy... Oh,
that's in LA.
Yeah, there's so many people.
Yeah, that's scary.
In LA. And her harness would break, but luckily she was really well trained, and she, loved us, and so she would just come right to me. But it's so scary.
Scary.
Those moments.
Yeah. So Brad and I, we have an adrenaline crash. Yeah. Banksy also had an adrenaline crash and promptly fell asleep on my feet. Bear. Harlow looked at us as if, wasn't that a fun family outing? Should we do that again? Didn't you guys have fun doing that?
He belongs on a farm. He needs to be running around with sheep.
This is so fun. He keeps testing us, and we keep having to up it. The first day we got him, the collar they put on him at the shelter wasn't a good fit, and he slipped out of it. The next time he did it, we now have a harness with two connectors, one to the neck, one to the harness. And
you just gotta be safe.
So now we're gonna get a padlock for that gate. Obviously now we have to go and do a weight bearing test on all after anybody's been in the back.
Just push against
it. Man, but we're also learning the dog. Like Bailey, our old dog, she never in a million years would have thought to stand up on the fence. And even if the gate was wide open.
That's just not what she was like.
She would have meandered around the front yard until we found her and been like, can we take a nap now? Because I was outside for a while and you guys didn't know.
No, Harlow loves to run.
Harlow
and it's not like he doesn't get exercise. You guys walk him and he has that big yard. It's just like
his breed.
He's still really young.
Yeah,
and
young.
he wants to just run.
Yeah, it's his breed and it's his breed and his age. And they said, that's why we have to work with him. Even in the yard when I yell for them to come inside, Banksy always comes in full sprint. Like he can't wait to just please me. And Harlow will often look at me and then he does this very elegant tiptoe the long way around the yard as if
because he wants to still rebel.
He's like do 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 do, and then he comes. I know he's coming, so I just wait patiently. But I look at him as if he's pushing it. He's just testing the boundaries.
Yep.
But anyway, so it's just been stuff like that, and then my son fell out of bed this morning, and he has this bruise and cut by his eye. And I said, "Oh my goodness, honey, your eye looks terrible. Are you okay?" And he said, "Yeah, your eyes look terrible. Are you okay?"
Wow, like, rude.
Well, I said, well, it was accurate. I said, well, that's insomnia and aging, honey. It's a little different. I just make sure you're okay from your fall, but thanks for the confidence boost.
Yeah.
So, anyway, that's where I'm at today. But what about you? You have done it again. Why don't you tell everybody what's happened? No, tell everybody.
Okay.
Tell everybody. You've got Bridge Kitty.
This is not our fault.
You've got Bridge Kitty who's going to be your pet. I know it. You've still got the squirrel whose teeth hopefully don't grow into his brain. And now what has happened?
Well, this week, and it was a week, I go out to the chicken coop around sunset, close them up. They'll walk themselves into the coop and settle really easy like that. And you just shut the inner and outer doors. And in the coop, I noticed there's like a weird shape on the top of it. And it, the sun sets early, and so it's kind of hard to see. And I was like, kind of looks like a dinosaur. And so I'm like, Chris, you want to come check out what's going on here? I was like kind of laughing. And it's an iguana on the chicken coop, because that makes sense. I feel like that's part of a spell.
Well, he heard. Word got out. Go here.
Yeah, exactly. Somebody else had said that he was trying to find Chris the Savior.
Yeah.
Capital S.
You guys are in the middle of a Disney movie.
Yeah, something like that. Oh man. So the iguana is in the house now because it was really cold and they're cold-blooded, and so we put it in an old terrarium with a heat lamp, gave it some collard greens and that kind of stuff.
Because who doesn't just have that on hand?
And so we are not keeping it. We are Chris is actively finding a rescue for it. We put it on multiple different channels. Nobody's really claimed it, or 10 people have claimed it. So it's a little tricky. But yeah.
How do you know if they're lying?
I mean, that's a good question.
Can't they just send a picture? I mean, can you tell the difference between iguanas? Can they just...
I don't know. I really am unfamiliar with iguanas.
Yeah, you and me both. How does an iguana even get out?
That's the thing. I think maybe, who knows? Like, did it push out of its cage and just walk away? Did its owner throw it out in the yard? Like, I have no idea. But it was rough. It's like missing fingers and toes.
Ew.
But and right before we started recording, I could hear, so Chris's office is next to mine, and I could hear like a bump, bump, bump as I checked, and it's trying to get out of the terrarium. I said, Chris.
There we go. It's the Harlow of iguanas, and it's testing its limits.
So it's a zoo right now, and we need to thin it out.
That's awesome that you guys do that. I give you a hard time, but I think it's great. Let me know what happens with that iguana.
Yeah, will do.
All right. Hop into that tea review. We're already 9 minutes in.
Oh, yeah, tea. Tea time crimes. I forgot about that. Okay, so we're going with another holiday theme tea. And this one is eggnog tea.
Ugh, do you like eggnog?
I know. No.
I don't either.
I want to give it another shot. Like, I want to try homemade eggnog. And
I always want to give stuff an extra shot.
I mean, I feel like I've had really gross grocery store bought eggnog at like a function or a garage sale or something.
Oh, I'm sorry. If you're at a garage sale that's serving eggnog, you need to immediately leave. Vacate the premises. This is not a garage sale. This is a start of Dateline, and you have entered into a terrible realm.
Okay, maybe it wasn't a garage sale. I don't remember.
I
it was
hope
a
not.
long time ago.
Good Lord.
But anyways, I'm planning to try eggnog again this season.
Planning?
But doing it properly.
I've penciled it into my holiday calendar.
And so this is going to ease me into that. So are you ready for the description?
Yes, I'm ready.
Creamy. Okay, get it together.
You know who loves eggnog? Loves it.
Bradley.
Can you guess? Yeah.
Yes.
Every night drinks it.
Out of his uncle
Eddie mug, yes.
Yep.
His moose mug, yes. Yeah. Every night. It's so gross. Ugh. I mean, not every night during the holiday season, not every night all year round.
Every night of the year.
You probably would if it was sold all year round. Anyway, go ahead.
Oh my God. Okay. Creamy eggnog with a hint of spice and a splash of black rum. Perfect anytime your spirits need a lift.
Okay.
All right. So I put some milk in it because it's black tea.
Who made it?
Our friends at Sunshine Cottage.
Oh, man. Sunshine Cottage is really...
They're killing it.
Been upping their game. If you guys haven't listened to our October episodes, Alana picked this tea on Etsy from a vendor, Sunshine Cottage, and I used to work for them in Vermont when I was a teenager, and she had no idea. It's
the smallest world thing ever.
Yeah,
that
crazy.
was crazy.
All right, go ahead. Well, right. You have loved all of her teas so far.
I have. She balances them really well. There's anyways, okay. Smelling it. It smells great.
Mm-hmm. Eggnog smells good.
It smells warm and creamy and like has that holiday spice. Yeah. It's a mouthful. It has the mouthfeel of eggnog, and I'm not sure how it does that because it's just loose leaf black tea. Maybe like I said, I put milk in it, but
can you make your sips louder into the mic?
Like that?
Never mind.
I actually like it. And if eggnog tastes like this, I could like it.
It doesn't.
It's got that, it's got like a smooth, like almost you're at the top of a water slide, but not a tall one.
Here we go. And
you glide gently down. And then there's no splash at the bottom, but you end in this nice calm pool and you're on a floaty and the pool's made out of cream and life's good. And you're just floating there and nothing else matters. That's what this tea tastes like.
Wow, that's amazing.
And it's like a pillow sitting in my mouth now in a really nice way, not suffocating.
Sunshine Cottage, feel free to use this.
Wow, this is really good. I'm excited to try eggnog now.
Well, you shouldn't be. It's not going to change. There have been no big advancements in eggnog technology since the last time you had it at a garage sale. So you should
homemade. What if I'd make it?
Oh, God.
All right, we're going to go for it, folks.
Yeah, why don't you go foraging for some eggnogs?
Our alternate episode, Wine Time.
What?
Crime Time.
Did your brain break? I didn't know we had an alternate podcast.
Okay, I know what to give this tea.
All right.
Ready?
Lay it on us.
Hold on, I have to think of the words in the right order.
Oh, then I guess you don't know. But that makes me think that your thought process is just words fall down, and then you have to, every time you speak, you have to put them in
Scrabble.
Order. Yeah.
It's I got it. It's a hug and a mug. Thumbs up.
It's a good one.
Thanks.
That's a good one.
But that's what it feels like.
Okay.
It's really nice. I really suggest this one. This one might be is it my favorite out of all of them? I don't know. But anyways, check her out. Etsy, baby. Sunshine Cottage.
Can you link her Etsy shop in the source notes?
Yes, will do.
That's awesome. I have a very vivid picture of soaking in a nice calm milk bath for this tea. It's great skin treatment.
Yeah.
Okay. Are we ready to shift gears? Because we have a serious one today. We have a request,
Oh,
which I love when people reach out to us because I want to cover
yeah, I
stories
really
that
appreciate that.
people are interested in. So thank you to this person who reached out. They suggested 2 different cases from the true crime author Gregg Olsen, and I had read one previously, and the only reason we haven't covered it is because I don't think you're ready to hang for it. Maybe you'll work your way up to it. And
Oh,
then they suggested a second one, which I immediately got the audiobook for, and this audiobook is so amazing. I mean, the book is great. I highly recommend it. It's called American Mother. Don't look it up yet. Sit with me for the story. The audio version is by Karen Peaks, I believe her name is, and she does a great job. I highly recommend it. But what we're going to talk about today is the tragic death of Sue Snow.
it's a nice name.
I know, isn't it a beautiful name? On June 11th, 1986, 40-year-old Sue Snow told her 15-year-old daughter, Haley, I love you. And then she went to go get ready for work. Haley did the same to go get ready for school. Haley's getting ready, and they have their morning routine down. Their bathrooms are next to each other. She hears a noise, something small, but something that makes her pause and listen. She doesn't hear anything else, so she goes about her business. Now, you know how you get used to your morning routine.
Hmm.
And if a sound suddenly stops or the length of a sound changes, you happen to notice it even though
Sure.
you
Yeah.
might not pick it out. You know, a fan shuts off and you think, "Why what am I missing? What just happened?" And then you realize it's
Right.
quiet, right? So Haley's continuing to get ready and she realizes that the bathroom sink in her mother's bathroom is still running and she's used to it turning on, off, you know, like you would
Oh, as
for
she's getting ready and stuff, brushing
yeah,
her teeth.
as she'd brush her teeth, it turns on and off. Or she washes her face, turns on and off. So she hears it still running and she decides to make sure her mother's okay. So she walks into her mother's bathroom and it's there that she realizes that soft thud she heard was her mother collapsing.
No.
Her mother is on the floor. She's still breathing, but her eyes are transfixed to a spot in front of her and Haley can't see whatever she's looking at. Her
Is
mother
she
is
concussed?
unresponsive. So
Oh,
Haley immediately jumps into action. This is before cell phones, right? So she has to run to the landline, call
yep.
911, and then she has to do this very scary back and forth. You know,
Yeah.
they're dispatching help, of course, but they're trying to also help her in the moment. So, what color is your mother? She has to run back and tell her, you know, back and forth, back and forth.
Oh, and there's nobody else in the house to like assist with
It's
this.
just the
Got it.
two of them. It's just the two
Okay.
of them. The EMTs arrive to the house in Auburn, Washington at 6:47. Sue and Haley had gone to get ready just a little after 6:30. And when they arrive, it's just chaos, you know, like that rip your gut open kind of fear
Oh,
that's happening.
yeah.
And Sue's breathing is incredibly labored and incredibly loud at this point. So the EMTs take her out of the bathroom, put her on the bed so they have room to work. They're attempting to breathe for her with a breathing bag,
Yep.
and they're hammering Haley with questions. And they have to. In a situation like this, there's no other option but to get to the information as quickly as possible. They don't have the luxury
Mm-hmm.
of being sensitive. So, has this ever happened before? Does your mother do drugs? Did something happen to her? Did she take any
Oh my
medication? Just
God.
one after the other. And Haley says, no, 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 no to everything. Sue is rushed to the hospital. And Haley's in the waiting room, and Sue's husband, which is Haley's stepfather, is at work. Again, no cell phones. I know that's hard to grasp. We have to remember or imagine if you're young what that felt like, but somebody
Right.
has to find somebody to track him down and get
Right.
to
Because
him.
he might have a pager, but usually only medical people would have pagers.
Right. So eventually somebody finds Paul Webking and they tell him, your wife's in the hospital, but that's all they say. So Paul leaves immediately, but he says that he's assuming it would be something minor. Like she went to the
Yeah.
ER for something minor. He actually thinks that it's probably a panic attack because Sue had been recently promoted and she just had so much pressure from
Okay. The
work and was doing so
stress.
much more that she'd been stressed recently. So he goes, but he doesn't really have any feelings about it. He's just, "Oh, I'll go. I'll go." That's all the information he has. He gets in the car. He goes to the hospital. He walks into the ER and what people would describe later as casually. And by the time the doctor comes out to talk to the family, Sue has been declared brain dead
Mm.
and she's on life support. The doctors recommend removing her from all the machines. So that same day, the family has to make the incredibly difficult
Yeah.
decision to remove Sue from life support.
Wow.
And Haley has to say goodbye to her mom. Now, of course, an autopsy is performed on Sue because Sue is a healthy 40-year-old woman with no serious medical conditions that
Right.
anybody knows of. They ask Paul, could she have a heart condition? Could she have been electrocuted? They're trying to come up with some sort of theory. Paul says there's no way she was electrocuted because there'd be evidence of that at the house. Breakers would have flipped, things would have happened, there'd be a trail. He says there's no medical condition. He says the only thing is she takes Excedrin almost every morning because she suffers from headaches and she takes it for the caffeine. They continue with their autopsy. Now, the ME performing this happens to notice a smell of bitter almonds during this, which is the smell of cyanide.
Somebody did something to the Excedrin.
This is something that would have been overlooked because it's not a particularly strong or unusual smell if this particular medical examiner had not had previous experience.
Wow. That's huge.
So they immediately run tox screens searching for everything, but specifically also cyanide. And
Yeah.
cyanide stops your body from using oxygen.
Oh.
It's terrible, which is why Sue was having trouble breathing.
Right, she was just unresponsive.
It won't allow you to use oxygen.
Right, and then your brain is messed up.
So the Snow family, or the Snow Webking family, finds out the results of the tox screen on the day of Sue's burial. And the investigators confirmed that it was, in fact, death by cyanide poisoning. So right after the burial, the FBI shows up to the house. Paul is there, of course, along with Sue's two daughters. So you have Haley, the 15-year-old, but she also has an older daughter named Exia, and Sue's a twin. So her sister Sarah is there.
Oh.
And can you imagine finding out this kind of information? There's no good news at this point because you're not.
No, but it will totally disturb the day that is meant to be about laying to rest and like finding peace.
But I have to think, I don't have any experience from this, so I'm just, imagining. I have to think there's a difference in the way you process your grief if you find out that it was some sort of medical fluke, like an aneurysm, that was just unavoidable, that there was nothing anybody could have done.
Right.
Versus cyanide poisoning, which is
Right,
completely
either
avoidable.
self-harm or
And who the heck did this?
somebody else did it to her. Yeah.
Why? How? There's so many more questions that must come with that on top of your grief.
Completely. Absolutely.
So they're talking to the whole family. Paul lets them search the house. They take anything that could be a vehicle for the cyanide, which is mostly pills and pill bottles, and they take all the trash. They find that 9 of the Excedrin pills in the Excedrin bottle at the house have cyanide in them.
Dude.
Now, with the evidence in this case, the FBI actually has jurisdiction because it's a federal offense after there's a string of Tylenol poisonings in Chicago a few years earlier. And so it became a product tampering case, became a federal crime rather than
state,
rather than a local murder. Paul says that the morning of June 11th, before he went to work, he also took 2 Excedrin from the same bottle. He said that they often took Excedrin every day. Sue would open the bottle, throw away all the packaging, even the cap, and that she always bought capsules, not tablets. And this is frustrating to investigators because they want the packaging. The packaging will help them understand which plant it was manufactured in so that they could start to have a suspect list and narrow it down. But everything's been thrown away, and the day that Sue died happened to also be trash day.
Wait, I'm not understanding. Like, it's not a bottle of Excedrin.
Yeah, it's a bottle.
It's just like a one-time use?
No. She had the bottle, but like the actual box it came in.
Oh, okay.
The box is gone. The actual cap off the box, off the top, is
so
gone.
She just leaves it open in the cabinet or something?
She leaves it open in a cupboard or something.
Interesting. Okay.
But the actual box that it came in, they wanted, and it's gone. So it's just in the it's just the bottle. So there's so many questions. Was Sue the target? Is this random? What's going on in Sue's life that would make her a possible target?
Yeah.
Who would do this? Is it just the bottle in the Snow Webking home? Are there others? So obviously there's an immediate product recall, right? All of the Excedrin is taken off the shelves to be tested immediately.
Wow.
And then they dive into Sue's life because that's all that they have. They don't know where this bottle came from. So they dive into Sue's life, mainly her relationship with Paul. So Paul says they'd been getting along great. He admitted that there had been trouble, that he had had an affair the previous year with an old girlfriend, but that he and Sue had gone to counseling and they had worked it out. The couple had met in 1978 and they had been introduced actually by Sue's oldest daughter because her daughter went to school with Paul's son. And Sue was technically still married, but she'd been separated for a long time from her first husband, Connie. Now, Sue's pretty impressive. She had her first daughter, Exia, at 16, had earned her GED and started working as a teller at a bank and had worked her way up.
Damn, dude.
She was super smart. Everybody described her as really likable, super friendly personality. So she married pretty young, and she has her first young daughter, and then she married Connie Snow, and they had Haley.
Okay.
Now, it seems that Connie and Sue probably grew apart, and she actually took the girls for a whole year to go live closer to her father so she could take care of him as he was aging.
Okay.
And during that time, when she returned, I mean, that's a whole year. They were still married, her and Connie, but Connie found evidence that Sue had started an affair with somebody else.
Oh.
And so Sue wanted to work through it, but Connie said he just couldn't let it go. He kept wondering where she was, if she was a little bit late, if she didn't call, and he didn't want to live like that. Yeah. So the two separated. And that's why they'd been separated for a while. So when she met Paul, they hadn't been together for a long time. Now, Sue's twin, Sarah, she was surprised by Sue's interest in Paul. She thought he seemed different than other guys that Sue had dated previously. She described him as demanding, controlling, assertive.
I don't like that.
And Sue seemed to be influenced by Paul. And Paul said that he thought Sue was drawn to him because she was always so upbeat and so friendly and such a positive person that she felt like she could really relax and be herself around Paul, because he wasn't like that. He would just be himself and, be grumpy if he wanted to, or be assertive if he needed to be, and she could just kind of relax around him. They were on and off for a little bit, and then they actually moved in together. And at this time, Exia is out of the house because she's older. So it was just Haley, Sue, and
Haley.
Paul. Now, the investigators also start to question the daughters. Exia makes a comment during her questioning that says, "It's weird that my mother had this bottle because she never got capsules. She always got tablets."
But Paul said the other way around.
Exactly. So that sticks with them because Paul said the opposite. And if that's true, why would Sue have a bottle of capsules? So they search Paul's work. He's a trucker. They find a bag of pills in his truck.
Uh-oh.
They question him about it. He admits to it. There's something to keep him up. They confirm that. That's exactly what it is. He's like, "I'm a trucker. Sometimes I need to stay awake." That's what they are. But after the police leave, Paul says, "I know there's a bottle of Excedrin in that truck, and I don't know why they didn't bring it." So he goes to the truck, gets it, and disposes of it. Now, Sarah thinks this is very strange.
What?
And Paul says, "I wasn't hiding it, Sarah. It was in plain sight."
Then why'd you throw it out?
Because he was afraid it could be poisonous.
But I feel like you bring it to the cops.
Yeah, well, I think Sarah might have felt the same way. So Sarah's uncomfortable with this.
Okay.
The police also go to Sue's work to learn more about her at work and what was going on. Everyone says
she just got promoted, right?
Yeah, and everyone says she was doing really well. They echo what we've already heard, that she was super friendly, really well liked.
Right. And she's been at that bank since she was young, like 18 or something.
I don't know if it's the same bank. I just know it's in that same industry, but she's been there a while.
Yeah.
And they say that Sue always had Excedrin with her. She carried a bottle in her purse, and it was always tablets, not capsules. And the police...
2 against 1.
And the investigators ask for it, and they say, "We don't have it. Paul already came and took her belongings." So the police talked to Sue's clients, old boyfriends, current clients. Was Sue having an affair? Was there some sort of love triangle that Paul's keeping from them? And all of them swear, no, my relationship with Sue was either in the past or it was just professional, depending. So it's very confusing. And you have to stop and just for a moment think about Haley's still in the house. She's 15. She's just lost her mother, who she was incredibly close to. And now her stepfather is
It's
being
not
pretty
even...
heavily investigated.
She must feel so alone. She should go to her dad's.
And this is because either way you look at it, it's not great, because either he did murder her mother or he's being falsely accused.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't even imagine what that must feel like.
No. Sickening.
So once news of Sue Snow's death hits the media, law enforcement gets another phone call. A woman named Stella Nickel had recently lost her husband, and she thought that maybe he died the same way that Sue Snow did. So investigators talked to Stella right away, and they find out on June 5th, her husband, Bruce Nickel, came home with a bad headache. He took 4 Excedrin. Very shortly after that, collapsed. Stella had called 911, but doctors were unable to save him. They had done an autopsy. They had ruled the cause of death as emphysema, but nobody had tested for cyanide because there was no reason to.
But the oxygen.
Stella had an issue with this rule of death because she said Bruce just got a physical not too long ago for work, and they said that he may develop emphysema, but that he didn't currently have it. So I don't understand how he could die from it shortly after.
So quickly.
Right. So the agents look into this. They confirm the story to be true, and they find that there are still some samples from the autopsy, and they send those off for testing. Now, while they're checking this, because Bruce died before Sue. So is Bruce the first victim of whatever's going on? Right?
At a trucker place?
Paul is being investigated. They're putting the pressure on him. They want him to take a lie detector test. He's offended and doesn't want to take one. The investigator who initially requested it really made him mad, and he doesn't want to do it. So another investigator gives it a try and talks to him about it, and Paul agrees. So while Paul is taking his lie detector test, the results from Bruce Nickel come back, and he too died of cyanide poisoning, just like Sue Snow.
Yikes.
Paul Webking passes that lie detector test. From the recall, the FBI ends up with 5 bottles of over-the-counter pills that are tainted with cyanide. You have the bottle that Sue Snow used. It has no outside packaging, no cap. Of the 56 capsules left, 9 are laced with cyanide.
So is this just a huge tampering case?
Several with green specks in them. There's an unopened bottle from a store in the area that has 4 pills with cyanide, all with green specks. The safety seal had been cut.
What?
The bottle from the Nickel home has evidence of tampering. 7 capsules are left, 2 with cyanide, and those have green specks. There is a second bottle from the Nickel home, no safety seal. 4 out of the 35 pills have cyanide, all with green specks.
Someone's doing this.
And lastly, there's a bottle of Anisin 3, which is like an acetaminophen. Okay. 4 pills are affected with the same green specks. The box had been glued, the safety seal had been tampered with, and it was also at the wrong store with the wrong price tag.
What is wrong with people? Why do people get kicks out of doing this?
On average, there's 700 milligrams of cyanide in each pill. The problem is that cyanide is very easy to get. You can purchase it at chemical supply stores. Photographers use it. Jewelers use it. Chemists use it. And in order to be able to trace down the manufacturer of this particular cyanide, they need a certain chemical in the cyanide, but whatever the green specks are have destroyed it.
Oh, man.
So they can't find what plant it came from. As investigators dive deeper into this case, they learn that Stella Nickel claims she bought both bottles of her Excedrin, right? There were 2 in the Nickel home, at different times and at different stores, 2 whole weeks apart. That would mean out of the 5 affected bottles, the Nickels would have been unlucky enough to catch 2 of them weeks apart in different locations. The odds of that seem astronomical. So unbeknownst to Haley and Paul, the investigation starts to shift to Bruce Nickel.
Oh.
So who are Bruce and Stella Nickel? Well, Bruce was born June 1st, 1934 in Seattle, and his parents had tried to have children for years, and they had adopted Bruce when he was an infant. His father was an apple farmer, and his mother was a second-grade teacher. So he grew up on this beautiful orchard in Washington, and his parents adored him. When Bruce was 15, he started drinking, and he struggled with alcohol for most of his adult life.
Wow.
It's something his parents didn't really understand because they didn't drink.
Mm-hmm.
And we know now that there was probably a huge genetic component at hand for Bruce that him and his parents were just unaware of and didn't really know how to tackle. So he struggled with alcoholism for years. Stella, on the other hand, who was born in 1943, grew up with an alcoholic, abusive father. He beat her mother, he beat the kids, rumors of sexual abuse. They had no running water, they had no heat, but Stella's mother did everything she could to make sure they always had food. And Stella's mother, Cora, she actually left Stella's father, and she started to work in a mill to support the family. She was the only woman that worked there. And she told her kids, I can do it as well as a man. But Cora would have many relationships through her lifetime, many of them ending up being abusive. Stella became pregnant at the age of 15, and she told her mother that her boyfriend at the time had invited a friend over to his house and that they had both raped her.
No.
Cora wanted Stella to marry the father. Stella refused. It's worth noting that who Stella claimed to be the father was not accurate. It was not true, and it's believed that the story was fabricated because she was 15 and pregnant. So Cora says, okay, well, then I'll adopt the baby. Stella refuses again, and at the age of 16, Stella gives birth to her daughter, Cynthia. Now, Stella has reconnected with her on-again, off-again boyfriend, Ricky Slauson, whom she started dating when she was just 13 and he was 17.
That's not okay.
And the baby takes Ricky's name. Cora, however, keeps wanting to help her daughter.
Yeah.
So she says, how about, right there in Washington, she says, how about you come live with me? She's in California now. I'll watch the baby. You can finish school. You can get a job. You can get back on your feet. So Stella likes this idea and she wants to go, but Ricky does not want to go to California. So Stella goes anyways and basically says, well, if you really love me, you'll come too.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of going, Ricky sends a letter that says he wants Cynthia and he's going to have her declared as an unfit mother. And Stella fights back and says, go ahead and try. She's not your daughter. You know that she's not your daughter. And I will press charges for statutory rape because I was so young when we got together.
Mm-hmm.
So Cora, it's just Cora, Stella, and the baby. I think Cora's remarried at this point. Stella just comes and goes as she pleases. It's really Cora raising the baby. Stella gets pregnant a second time, and she gives this baby up for adoption, but her mother and her tell everybody it was stillborn. In 1964, at the age of 20, Stella gets married. She marries a man named Bob Strong. So she stays home with Cynthia once she's married, and the three of them live together. They're out of Cora's house. Okay. Stella is said to run the house. She'll poke Bob or Cindy with a fork if they step out of line.
Whoa.
She starts having multiple affairs. She's reported to gaslight Bob every chance she gets. For example, one day Bob came home early, caught her on the couch with another man in lingerie. And Stella said, oh, gosh, nothing happened. It's just a friend. Or it was just right?
That's not a thing.
And then the next week denied that it ever even happened.
Yikes.
Yeah. She flirts in front of Bob constantly.
Poor Bob.
Yeah. The pair stay together long enough to have a second daughter in 1966 named Leah. Now, I have not painted an ideal picture, clearly. This does not sound good for anybody.
Really, it sounds like a dream come true.
But Stella is also abusing Cynthia.
No.
And one day Cynthia goes to school covered in bruises. And she's taken into protective care because the nurse asked her what happened, and she said that her mother beat her with a wooden stick or a wooden pole. Bob is livid. He asks Stella what happened, but he knows a little bit of what's going on because it's not uncommon for him to come home from work and for Cindy or Cynthia to be locked in her room and for Stella to tell him to go discipline her. And Bob said he would often just tell Cindy to cry so that her mom would think she was being
He
disciplined.
didn't have the heart to spank
I mean,
her.
I still think he did spank her.
I mean, this is the 80s, right?
Mm-hmm,
So there was still...
No, this
still
isn't the
going
80s.
on.
This is the 60s.
Oh yeah, so that's
This is
definitely
when
happening.
Yeah.
There's switches and belts and
Yeah.
all of the above.
So Cindy is taken into protective custody, and Stella says she's just doing this for sympathy, and she just bruises easily.
I can't.
Mm-hmm.
I can't.
Can you see how she's shaping up?
I empathize with Stella. Like, Stella's been through a lot, but like, break the chain. Like, be the end to that cycle.
So Cindy is released into Bob's care.
Okay.
But while being admitted into protective custody, Cindy's very young. So Cindy thinks Bob is her father. And it comes out during this admittance that Strong is not her actual last name.
Oh.
So on top of being taken from her mother for being beaten, she finds out that Bob is not her real father.
But he loves her.
Stella is sentenced to mandatory therapy. That's it. In 1971, Stella is again faced with charges for fraud and forgery. She'd forged a check and she had a welfare check scam going. She agrees to a plea bargain for 6 months. At first, she denied it, but then police threatened to take her and Bob in, assuming both of them were involved. So she said Bob had no idea it was just her, so that the girls would have somewhere to stay, she says.
Oh, I was like, that's a rare form of selflessness.
Yeah. Now, Bob visits Stella in jail every single day and brings Leah and Cindy every Saturday to see her.
This guy's a sucker. He's got a big heart.
But Bob was also done with the marriage. He started dating another woman and he moved in with her while Stella was in jail.
He still has the girls.
He has the girls. When Stella was released from jail, he said, I want a divorce.
I mean, fair.
But Stella has nowhere to go. So he and his new girlfriend, Pat, let Stella stay with them for a few days.
Are you?
I know.
This guy.
So Stella puts the moves on Bob. So she is then dropped off at a motel. Then this is where you really start. I think you get a pretty good picture of who we're dealing with here. Stella goes to one of Pat's, the new girlfriends, one of Pat's good friends, Louise, and has a sob story. Says she did the time for Bob to save Bob, and she admitted to it, but Bob's the one who really did it. And also Bob's abusing the girls.
No.
Mm-hmm. So this friend lets her stay, but this friend starts to get frustrated because the girls would be with Stella sometimes and with Bob sometimes, right?
Okay.
So the girls, when they're with Stella, Stella would just go out for the whole night and just leave the girls there.
How old are they at this point? Cindy has to be a little bit older.
A little older, but still, like, they're in, like, is Louise supposed to take care of them? So she's just leaving and doing whatever she wants. And when Louise would start to get fed up with it, Stella would swoop in and do something really nice. Like, they'd be out of food and suddenly Louise would come home and the cupboards would be full. Stella would have stuffed it with, a whole week's worth of groceries. Or one time their electric was about to get shut off because she didn't have the money to pay it. Stella went down and paid it before it got shut off.
Gotcha.
Like, it was no big deal. You see here.
It's all control.
Like, she's doing these big acts and then she uses it to get as much as she can.
Yeah.
And she's also starting to poison the girls against Bob as much as she can. So
I hate this. I hate when people use the children as pawns. It really upsets me.
Bob gave Cindy a fish as a pet.
A fish.
And yes, Stella immediately flushed it down the toilet.
Oh my God.
Bob told Leah that she had beautiful hair. And Stella cut it down to the scalp.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So Bob is trying to get custody this whole time of Leah. He wants custody of Cindy too, but she's not technically his and he had never formally adopted her. So he doesn't have much of a standing. He's trying really hard to get custody of Leah. And with Bob putting the heat on, Stella takes the girls and she goes back to Washington.
No.
She sets the girls up in an apartment, and according to Cindy, her mother would stop by once a day to make sure they had food.
What is happening?
They think she was probably living with another man.
Yeah.
And Cindy would take care of Leah, and she would make her breakfast, and she remembers going to Goodwill and getting her presents and gifts so that she had something to play with.
Oh, stop it. I bet Bob is so broken up over it too. Like, he clearly loves them.
Well, Bob is still looking for them. He didn't give up. Eventually, Stella drops Leah at a family member's house. Bob finds this out. He goes right to the family member and he just says, "Give me Leah."
Yeah.
And the woman, I think it was Leah's aunt, she says, "Don't tell Stella I did this." And she said, he's like, "I won't. Just give me Leah. We're out of here." So Leah lives with him. Now, in 1974, even Cindy moves in with Bob. But at this point, Cindy has been in and out of foster care. She's a teenager. She runs away all the time.
Poor Cindy.
Bob never knows where she is. And so he ends up reporting her as a runaway to hopefully try and keep her safe.
Mm-hmm.
And she's taken into protective custody again. They notify Stella, but Stella doesn't come to get her. Instead, Cora does, the grandmother.
Cora, back in the
Cora
scene.
comes and gets Cindy. That same year, Stella meets Bruce Nichol for the first time.
Oh, boy.
He's married, but 2 years later, Stella and Bruce get married.
Bruce, run.
They have a rocky relationship, as you might imagine. On again, off again, but they stay together. And the two partied hard. At this point, Bruce is really struggling with alcoholism.
Oh, right.
So much so that it's a problem for Stella, and she starts to give Bruce ultimatums as time goes on, and she says, I can't do this anymore. A lot of people think it's because of the money. Bruce was spending about $250 a week on a bar tab.
Oh, my God.
Which is a lot because we're still in the 70s.
Right.
That's a ton.
It's a lot of money, especially if you're not well off.
Yeah, they're struggling. So in 1979, Bruce finally agrees to check into rehab, and he does a program, and he never drinks again.
Good for him.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
There is so much more that happens here that I can't possibly capture it all. But this is why you need to read the book. But Cindy's got a child now. You know, she's out partying a lot too.
Mm-hmm.
She's got a boyfriend that she's involved with, and then she breaks up with him and goes for another guy, and she feels bad. So she tells her mother, "Hey, do you mind if Dave comes and stays with you for a little bit because he's heartbroken? I just dumped him."
Okay.
Stella lets Dave stay at the house, and then she starts an affair with her daughter's ex-boyfriend.
That's weird.
While Bruce is in Alaska working.
Oh, boy.
When Bruce returns home from Alaska, they have to file bankruptcy because Stella has gone through the money. She spent most of it on Dave.
Good job. Good job, Stella. Way to go.
And then in 1984, Bruce gets laid off.
Oof.
So they're really struggling financially.
Yeah.
Well, Cora comes in again and saves the day. She agrees to put a down payment on a large piece of land, a really beautiful piece of land. And Stella and Bruce live in a trailer, so they'll move the trailer up there. And then when Cora gets older, she'll also live on the land, and that way Stella can help take care of her. That's the plan.
Okay.
So things start to turn around a little bit. Bruce also gets a job with the state. And it's a temporary job, but it's one of those jobs that's temporary to start and then could turn permanent.
Yeah, yeah.
But then on June 5th, 1986, Bruce Nichol is found dead.
And it's this random cyanide shit.
So the FBI had been investigating Stella since the cyanide test came back, and they learned that she had 2 bottles from 2 weeks apart. The odds of that are super slim.
Oh, as if she knew.
They learn that Stella has been telling people she's bored with Bruce since he stopped drinking.
She's the one who... I can't with her.
He doesn't like to go out anymore.
Oh, I wonder why. Maybe because he's surrounded by something he's addicted to and he's trying not to.
Mm-hmm.
Jesus.
He wasn't as much fun, and she was also cheating on him with his good friend Jim.
I'm done.
Who happens to be a photographer and have a dark room in his house. If you'll remember...
What do you use with the chemicals? I'm just wondering.
Cyanide is one of the chemicals that photographers use. And also, they finally cracked what those green specks are. Those green specks were an algicide, an algae destroyer.
Mm-hmm.
Both Cindy and Stella loved fish and had it for their fish tanks. Or Stella had it for her fish tank. So The investigators go around to all the pet stores and say, hey, who's buying this product?
Yeah.
And at one pet store, the clerk says, oh, I know that woman, pointing to Stella, a picture of Stella. She buys an algicide that I have to special order.
Huh.
He says, and in fact, in there, they say, are you sure? They say, yeah, I've had several conversations with her. In fact, that particular algicide can become hardened. And so I told her she needs to put it in a bowl, pour hot water over it, and then crush it up before putting it into the tank.
But why is she putting that in the cyanide
So
thing?
the investigators had believed this. What they believed the green specks were once they found out it was algicide. They believed it was just a mistake, a cross contamination.
Oh,
So she
I see.
accidentally,
So she wasn't cleaning her workspace.
yeah, she accidentally was getting the green specks mixed in with the cyanide by using the same bowl. That's what they're thinking now.
I mean, that's wow.
But still, why? Right? And why Sue Snow?
Why? Yeah, right.
Sue Snow happened 5 days later.
But we found a bunch of different boxes in other stores, right?
Yeah.
How many were there?
Yeah, there were 5 in total. 2 at the Nichols, 1 with Sue, and then 2 randoms.
Yeah.
So they dive a little deeper. Bruce has life policies out in his name. Stella claims that Bruce only had a small one out with the state. That was something minimal that would, just cover a funeral. And that was it. But there seem to be other policies. There seem to be a couple of credit card policies that will cancel a debt if Bruce dies. There's also an additional accidental death clause that would significantly increase the payout to Stella Nickel, totaling $176,000 if Bruce were to die from an accidental death.
This is reminiscent.
So now they start to really push the lie detector test, just like they did with Paul. They want Stella to take a lie detector test. She keeps saying, oh, I'm under so much stress. I'll have to check with my doctor to see if it's safe.
Yeah, okay, sweetie.
So even with all of this, they still don't quite have enough. They can't prove that she had the cyanide. They don't know where she got it. They have all these theories and circumstantial evidence, but they don't have enough. Meanwhile, if you pause to go back to Haley Snow and Paul Webking, they don't know what's going on.
Sure.
They're not being kept in the loop
up to
of
date,
this investigation.
Of all this other piece of it. Jeez.
So they're still living in this weird, suspicious, grieving place.
Yeah.
In January of 1987, Cindy makes an appearance, and she says, I need to tell you guys some stuff.
Oh.
Cindy says Stella was bored with Bruce. She wanted to be with her boyfriend, Jim, Bruce's friend, and that she didn't want to lose the land in a divorce. And she wanted to open a tropical fish store with Cindy. Cindy's very knowledgeable about fish. Cindy sounds actually very smart. She's very knowledgeable about fish, and Stella would run the business, and Cindy would take care of the fish. Cindy said that Stella had tried poisonous seeds before the cyanide. She had put them in capsules, but they had only made Bruce sick. She had also talked to Cindy of getting a hitman, making it look like an accident.
God.
But she didn't have the money. And she talked of drugging his iced tea. She'd asked her specifically about different types of drugs because Cindy struggled with some drug use. So she asked her, what if I put a bunch of cocaine in his iced tea? What would happen?
Oh, all this over land and money. Oh, I hate people.
She also talked about reenacting the Tylenol case.
Wow.
Which was exactly what this is. It's
a
copycat of it. And she tells investigators that her mother researched poisonous plants and cyanide at the library. When she tells them all this, people don't believe her. There is a hefty reward out for any information that would lead to the conviction of somebody for this case. So people are giving Cindy a lot of crap for this. But they check it out. At the library, they find Stella has indeed checked out books on poison. One called Deadly Harvest, and another one that was never returned, Human Poisoning from Native and Cultivated Plants. Stella's fingerprints are all over Deadly Harvest.
Boom.
They are all over the C section of the encyclopedias.
Cyanide.
And her fingerprints are all over the life insurance policies that she claimed to know nothing about, with an additional analysis that the signature is not Bruce Nichol. It's somebody forging Bruce's name.
Damn. Good investigators. And this is in the 80s, man.
Yeah, Stella denies all of it, says she researched the poison because her granddaughter, Cindy's daughter, would often spend time at the property and they had poisonous plants, and she wanted to make sure her granddaughter was safe. She says that she looked up cyanide after Bruce died, not before, and she says that Cindy is a liar. But the prosecution comes back with a couple of things that just cannot be ignored. One, the contaminated algae bowl, right? She's known to use that exact algicide. It's in all of the contaminated bottles. The Anacin 3 that was found at the wrong store with the wrong price sticker.
Yeah.
That Anacin 3 would have been at a different type of store based off of the manufacturer. And Stella said she never shopped at that store, but literally the day before, she wrote a check to that store for a significant amount. So she could have easily purchased the Anacin 3 there and then brought it to the other store. Also, math is working against her because, again, she's got 2 bottles, 5 out of, thousands, that she claims she got 2 weeks apart at 2 different locations. And she followed up on that death certificate because it was ruled as emphysema. She kept following up. She kept following up. She kept following up. And really, the main thing is that if it's listed as emphysema, she only gets a few $1,000s. If it's listed as an accident,
why would she want to be pushing for it?
Exactly. She would have gotten away with it, but if she wanted it to be listed as accidental, she needed to prove that it was cyanide poisoning. Now, Stella is not charged for murder. She's being charged with product tampering. It's a much heftier
that caused
sentence.
Murder.
But
it's heftier than murder?
99 years.
I don't understand.
Is the sentence. Yeah.
I don't get it.
Because it's such a dangerous thing. It can be so random and can affect so many people. They charge her with product tampering first, and then they have the ability to charge her with murder in addition, but they charge her with product tampering first. On May 9th, 1988, she is found guilty on all counts, and she is sentenced to 90 years in prison. She had decided to kill Bruce for the insurance money to open up a tropical fish store and be free of him.
Terrible.
His death was listed as emphysema. She created a scam that would lead to the cause of death being changed.
Jeez.
To accidental so that she could get $100,000 more dollars. Now, even more than that, actually, $140,000 more dollars.
Damn.
Which means that Sue Snow fell victim to this woman wanting a little bit more money to open a tropical fish store.
Just because she was like collateral damage because of the whole thing.
And this is, Paul says that he took 2 from the same bottle. He just happened to not take 2 that were tainted, which is really a Russian roulette. He could have also died. Haley could have taken some from there. Yeah. There were also 2 other bottles out for the public.
Right. But they found them.
So more people could have died.
That's disgusting.
Now, Cindy did receive reward money. She was awarded $250,000 for her testimony.
I've never heard of that kind of reward money.
Yeah, leading to her mother being captured. She immediately vanished. Nobody heard from her for a very long time. She wanted to just get away.
Yeah.
Her family
she's had
was
a
mad
rough
at her.
life.
Yeah, and they were mad at her for turning on her mother.
Yeah, but she saved lives.
Now, Stella has recently, she's still in prison. She's recently asked for compassionate release because of her advanced age, and it has been denied. She maintained her innocence for roughly 30 years, and then recently started to say that she did kill Bruce, but that it was self-defense. There is no mention of Sue Snow in any of these parole hearings from Stella. Haley, Sue's daughter, has continued to attend these parole hearings and gives victim impact statements.
Wow.
But the random nature of this is so hard to come to terms with because Haley did an interview with Insider.com, and she says, my mother missed everything. Graduation, my wedding, the birth of her grandchild because of such a random, senseless,
Yeah.
cruel act, and it's just so hard to accept that. And she made a point of saying she tries not to let it make her bitter, but she said, Stella has never mentioned my mother's name,
Yeah.
and so I don't know why she would think she deserves a compassionate release.
Right.
I'm
Gotcha.
paraphrasing, she didn't say it like that, but now Gregg Olsen, the author of this, so American Mother, is the book, and the full title, I didn't wanna say it at the start, but the full title is American Mother: The True Story of a Troubled Family, Motherhood, and the Cyanide Murders That Shook the World.
Hmm.
Cindy actually reached out to Gregg Olsen later on, and he said, because there's so many theories, like, did Cindy just do this for the reward money? Was Cindy involved? Did Cindy help her mother to be
Mhm.
part of this fish store thing? It's gotta be tricky. She grew up abused,
Yeah.
and as an abused child, you're conditioned and taught to need your abuser's
Yep.
acceptance. So even if her mother was saying all the stuff that she said she was saying, you're not necessarily gonna believe it, and you're certainly not gonna try and make your abuser mad, even if you're an adult.
Right.
But Cindy told Gregg Olsen that what did it for me was Sue Snow.
Huh.
She kinda was like, "Do what you're gonna do, but now we're stepping outside of
Yeah.
the family, and innocent people
Right.
are being affected." Not
Wow.
that Bruce wasn't innocent, but now we're
No,
stepping
I hear you.
outside of this family pact, and other daughters lost their mother.
Ugh.
And Greg says, he goes, "I don't know. Who knows? Who knows what really happened in that sense?" He said, but he goes, "Cindy is so likable and funny and smart,
Hmm.
and she just vanished and got away from it all, and who knows?" But Stella is still serving her time in prison.
How old is she?
She's 79 right now.
Okay.
Yeah, so she said she didn't do it for so long, and now recently she's saying
Yeah.
just changed her story a little bit to try and get parole. And safety measures were taken, by the way. There have been several things done to help something like this be prevented. So originally this happened in Chicago, right? They put all these things on, like safety seals and
Mhm.
tamper-proof stuff. And they created a different type of capsule. What you know how because there are some capsules you can just break apart and pour everything out. They're like
Mhm.
little 2 plastic puzzle pieces.
Yeah.
Now you can't pull apart
Right. They're all.
capsules.
That's like the.
They're melded together.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that you would be able to see evidence of tampering. A
Okay.
little hopefully that's the hope
I mean,
anyway.
what's wild to me is that like Sue wasn't bothered by the seal tampered, but
Well, I'm not sure how much she noticed because a couple like in the bottles, one of the safety seals was broken. Another it looked like maybe the lid had been kind of popped off. So you never, and stuff like that. How many times have you gotten something from the store and it's a little bit open or something and you're like, "Yeah, it's probably fine." But who knows, maybe she thought Paul had opened it,
oh yeah, that's a great
right? And
point.
Paul thought she had
Yeah,
opened it.
yeah.
You just
That's
don't know what
definitely
they saw. Like maybe
probably what happened.
maybe there was no safety seal at all and they just
Right,
figured, "Oh, the other one must have opened it."
right. Man, it's messed up. That's
No,
just there's just no good reason. There's no good
no,
reason.
just for more money. So, Bruce, gosh, come on. He had, yeah, I just,
He battled his demons and he came out the
yeah,
other side and then he got murdered.
yeah. And, you know, Stella, she kept that gaslighting going. She
It's so
said that,
gross.
yeah, she said that, Cindy, she would say things like Cindy had a thing for Bruce and Cindy wanted to.
Oh
I'm like, well,
my
if Cindy had a thing for Bruce,
god.
why would she kill him for
Yeah.
starters? And Cindy said, I got closer to Bruce once he got sober. He was a lot
Yeah.
nicer to be around.
Man, so she was just like a class A narcissist, Zella, among other things.
And, like you said, she had a really, really hard upbringing, a
Yeah.
really tough life, but so did her siblings.
So did Cindy
And so did Cindy. Yeah.
because
And
of her.
we're taking different opportunities here. Sadly, her daughter Leah died suddenly when she was in her
Mm,
50s. I know this is just so sad for Sue Snow.
Yeah.
And I think it must be really hard to be to lose anybody is hard, but it must be really hard to be a twin
I think
and
about
lose your
that a
other
lot
twin because
too.
when people look at you,
Mhm.
you must see grief on their face or
Yeah.
missing that other half of you,
Mhm.
that special bond that twins have. So a lot of people were hurt by this, not just Bruce and
Seriously.
his parents, because his parents lived longer
So
than him.
selfish.
Product tampering is what she was charged for. She's actually
Yeah.
never been charged for murder. This is the first product tampering case that
So
has
weird.
been prosecuted and led to a conviction. They
Oh,
never found who did the Tylenol tamperings.
really?
Mm-mm. Yeah, this was a request that was sent in. I highly recommend this book. Again, the
Yeah.
narration for the Audible version is really, really good. And it's fascinating because they read out a lot of the court transcripts and the
Okay.
narrator does it in different voices.
Oh, wow.
Gregg Olsen said, the author said, I rarely like to use that because it makes it really dry. But in the way it's presented, it really feels like you are there and you're listening and you're getting a really good idea of who the people in this case are.
Got it.
Anyway, that is the story for today.
Ugh.
It's a really sad one.
Yeah.
But what are your last words?
I don't even know.
I
I
know.
mean, you could say something as simple as, maybe think about it a few extra times if you're going to do harm to someone for uh, something so stupid. But it's just, yeah. What do you do with someone like that? I don't even know.
Yeah, and think about how it must have created so many issues for people affected by this, people close to Sue, people in Sue's life, and Bruce's life, where you're probably afraid to take things.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You have a headache and you're probably afraid to take anything now.
Yeah.
Or you're afraid
It's
to
definitely trauma.
yeah, I mean, just I bet there's so many little strange things that popped up besides the initial huge overwhelming
Of
grief
course. Of
for the
course.
people affected by this that just ripples out
Yeah.
that we don't
Everything
even think of.
lingers.
Gregg Olsen says that Haley, her daughter, is just an unbelievable person, and read the I put in the source notes, read the interviews with her as well. She's doing everything she can to get over this trauma and to still continue to speak out for her mom.
Man.
But this is a very complicated two sets of mother and daughters who couldn't
Yeah.
be more different,
Right. Seriously.
and where the daughters had to overcome on both
Mm-hmm.
sides, had to overcome really
Yeah.
awful trauma.
Strength to them.
Yeah, I hope the daughters are doing great.
Me too.
All right. Well, who should listen today?
We should listen today. Maybe Bob's.
Yeah,
Anyone named Bob?
Bob Strong.
Grandmas, mothers and daughters, and truck drivers.
Yeah. Yeah, and poor Paul had to live with that cloud of being accused of his wife's death.
Yeah, that's rough.
I mean, even if he's not because some of the things he said was weird, so maybe he's not
Yeah.
nobody's perfect.
No,
But
nobody is. There's no black and white. Everything's
there's
on
a big
scale.
line drawn
between
between
murdering your wife.
between having an affair, having a fling with your old girlfriend, and murdering your wife, which was a
Yeah.
line he was not crossing, and people thought he was. So, yeah. All right. Well, you can find us on YouTube. You can find us on Instagram at
Tea Time Crimes and Facebook.
Facebook. I thought I forgot one. You can email us at
teatimecrimes@gmail.com. Remember, this story came from someone who requested it. So if you discover something in the wild and want us to cover it and it's not too hard for my little ears, we might do it.
Yeah. Pretty much any request I get that I don't cover is simply because I don't think Alana can handle it.
Yeah.
Not that this isn't terribly sad, but Alana has certain
I
triggers
have
that
certain
we agreed
triggers.
to
Yep.
beforehand, and so I try to honor that. All right. Well, I don't know. This story just makes me want to just enjoy the time you have with people.
Yeah.
And we're going to do something a little different next week.
Yes.
Alana, our format is that we cover true crime, but Alana never knows the stories going in because she doesn't love true crime. And so that's why
Mm-mm.
there's lots of little caveats as to what kind of stories I do cover, and I have to earmuff her. So my Christmas present to her is we're doing an episode that is just badass women,
Woo!
no murders.
Yeah.
And we'll have a couple other fun things happening
Oh yeah.
to make it a truly Alana-centered episode and something a little different than our normal format. But
Merry Christmas to me.
yeah, and thank you so much for listening.
Yes. Thank you.
Sorry, that was a really long pause. Bye.
Good night.
Oh, good night. It's different. What about the people listening in the morning?
Good night and good luck. Isn't that a sign off?